One of the most common reasons that people travel to Iceland is to see the Northern Lights. And I don't blame you. It's one of the most magical experiences that you can have. But when should you travel to Iceland to see the Northern Lights? Where's the best place to see them? And how do you actually capture them on camera? That is exactly what we're talking about in this video today so that you can see the Northern Lights for yourself. Hey, my name is Jeannie and I've been exploring Iceland for the past 10 years. I've written guidebooks and itineraries that have over 500 five-star reviews, and my mission is to help you plan the best trip ever. Let's get into it. So the first thing you need to know is that you cannot see the Northern Lights all year in Iceland. The best chance to see the Northern Lights are from September until March. So if you're planning a trip to Iceland, make sure that you come during those months. This is when the skies are dark. In my personal opinion, the best months to see the Northern Lights are September and October, and then again in March. But really any time during that window is when you're gonna be able to see them. The only problem with the other months is that typically we get a lot of storms during that time, so it can be just a little bit harder to see them simply for the fact that there's cloud cover. Starting around April and then all the way through August, this is when you will not be able to see the Northern Lights. Just know that if you want your best chance of seeing the Northern Lights, make sure to come in the right month. And so the reason for this is the sunlight. There's too much light. It does not get dark enough at the right time at night to be able to see the auroras. But just remember, it's not only about the season, it's about the right conditions. If it is cloudy, you will not see them. Okay, so where are the best places to see the Northern Lights? The golden question. So the rule of thumb is your best chance to see the Northern Lights is just to go somewhere that's dark. And by that I mean just try and get away from light pollution. If you are renting a car, there's a few places that you can drive to within short distance of the city in order to get the darkest skies and the best scenery to go along with it. First up is Thingvellir National Park. Here you have the tectonic plates and then also the lake that make this a very beautiful scenic location. Next, really anywhere along the south coast because you're nestled between the mountains and the ocean. And can you just imagine Northern Lights over the black sand beach? Amazing. The Reykjanes Peninsula is another great place to go. It's only a 45-minute drive from the city, and there's a lot of beautiful scenic locations out there, including lighthouses and cliffs that would be a perfect backdrop for the aurora. If you're stationed in Reykjavik and don't have a car, no worries, you can still see them. I've actually just walked out of my apartment building or out of restaurants and looked up and seen the aurora, so it is possible. Just know that the lights might seem a little bit more muted because it's now mixed with the light pollution. Pro tip, if you can get yourself over to Grota Lighthouse, that's where a lot of people will go to kind of escape that light pollution. It's a little bit of a hack, but when in doubt, just go outside and look up. And I recommend using the Aurora Forecast app to check conditions before heading out to make sure you have the best opportunities to see the lights. If you're coming to Iceland during the aurora season, then you need gear that's going to keep you dry and warm. If you're ready to pack like a pro, I've put together the ultimate Iceland packing guide. It comes with seasonal checklists, weather tips, and even a shopping guide to make packing so much easier. Grab it for free at the link in the description below. Okay, so seeing the Northern Lights is one thing, but capturing them in a photo is a whole different story. So here's the deal. If you're bringing a digital camera to Iceland, here are some settings that you're gonna wanna keep in mind so that you can have the best chance to get these photos. The first thing, and super important, is that you need a tripod. This is essential for stability of the image to make sure that the lights don't look blurry. You're gonna wanna slow down your shutter speed. So think anywhere from 5 to 15 seconds, longer if the lights are faint and shorter if they're moving fast. Keep the aperture around 2.8 or lower if possible. You want the lens to be wide open to let more of that light in. ISO is variable, but keep it between 800 to 3200, higher for darker conditions. And pro tip, if you don't have a fancy camera and you just have a smartphone, no problem. A lot of the cameras on phones these days are surprisingly just good enough. A lot of times I'll just capture these images with my iPhone if I don't feel like bringing my camera out and setting up the whole situation. So if you do have an iPhone with a newer camera, then here's what you're gonna wanna do. Make sure your flash is off and set it to long exposure or night mode. So you're gonna see the number of seconds up in the corner, and you can switch that to however long that you want it to be open to capture the light. Just again, making sure your camera is stable. So I like to just set it up on the top of the car or a railing or anywhere that you can get so that there's no movement. Okay, so should you try and find the Northern Lights yourself, or should you take a tour? This is another question I hear all the time, so let's talk about it. The benefits of taking a guided tour are pretty self-explanatory, but it's worth noting that you don't have to drive yourself. You're not having to tackle the crazy slippery Icelandic roads in the darkness, and you don't have to worry about where to find them. The guide already knows. And some tours even have a nice little warm beverage or a snack included, so it makes it kind of this cozy experience. If you're gonna try and drive yourself and find them, it's absolutely possible. The benefits to doing this is just having more flexibility. So you can go and stay as long as you want. You can go and kind of hop around to different locations. Just note with this, again, it's really important to always be checking the cloud cover on weather.is and using those apps to try and gauge when the best chance of the aurora coming out, because sometimes that crazy aurora comes out at like 7 p.m. and sometimes it's 10. It just does what it wants. So what's nice about these aurora forecast apps or predictors is that they can gauge kind of a time frame that the aurora is most likely to appear. All right, now that you know how to see the Northern Lights, let's talk about visiting Iceland without breaking the bank. In my next video, I'll show you exactly how to travel to Iceland on a budget, including accommodations, affordable food options, and how to save money on tours. I'll see you in the next video, but until then, happy planning.